I'm not the kind of person who stands behind a podium. I feel like I've learned it's a defense mechanism, run over, but that's okay. I feel so incredibly honored. Thank you so much for having me. As I was sitting here and talking to Paul and then talking to Mary and Julie and sitting here and listening to you speak, because I know some of the things that you do in the community, I'm thinking to myself, wow, there was a moment when I was growing up where I really genuinely felt like no one in the world cared whether I lived or died. And to be in a place like this that genuinely cares about the well-being and happiness of others in the rest of the world moves me to my core and is the motivating factor for why I do what I do. How much time do I have?
Till 1:15.
All right, I got it. I can do that.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my goodness, no, sorry. I can do it 2 hours and I can do 10 minutes. You just tell me what it is and I'll do it. There's so many different things that I really want to talk to you about, but one of the things that I think is really tugging at my heart right now in this new year is our ability to find the inner peace in in a very chaotic world. So I did a thing this year. I published my first book called Emails, and it took me 3 years. So I want to tell you a little bit about the research of the book, the message, a little bit about the title and why it's so important. So I have been doing this work for the last 14 years. I always wanted to, ever since I was very fortunate enough to come into the United States and be so blessed by benevolence and goodness of others to go and get higher education and to pursue my advanced studies. I always wanted to do something and make a difference. So initially I wanted to be president of Bosnia. Well, I got involved in politics, did all the international affairs, the public policy, went to DC, went to Geneva, I wanted to be at the UN, I did all the things. And I got very, very disillusioned very, very quickly. One of the things that I know about myself is that I'm quite a bull, as my husband sometimes likes to say, and I don't take no for an answer. And sometimes when I want to create change, I really want to create it in the most integrous and fast way, which is Julie, when you're talking about your business, I'm like, it takes a personality to create something. And I wasn't happy with the status quo. And all of my hope got shattered in Washington, D.C., where it was more important about who you knew and how much money you had than about your ideas. So I said, okay, I really do want to give back and I want to be the change maker in the world. How do I do that? What does that look like for me? So I did the best next thing that you do, I went into sales. What every highly educated person in this country does when they don't know what to do next. You do sales, right? You go into business. But all along I found my way, and I have been coaching really, really successful people. So I'm very, very blessed that in the 14 years now I work with politicians, with celebrities, with billionaires, millionaires. I'm the person that they call when they really, really need to cohere themselves and they want to become the true genius and the leader that they know that they are. And I feel so incredibly, incredibly blessed that is the case. However, in 2019, I started noticing there was an erosion in mental health in all of the people that I was working with, whether it's stay-at-home moms, some of my girlfriends I was talking to, or people who were that I was working with, who were running Fortune 500 companies. Fast forward to 2020, everything fell apart. And I lost all of my income. I'm an entrepreneur. My husband is an entrepreneur. So we had a household with no income for 6 months. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do now that everything is closed, we can't go anywhere? Both of us really got on a mission of, we're going to get on Zoom and we're going to be of service to the most people that we possibly can. So we took calls. I spoke at companies, so everyone who would listen. And there was so much anxiety. And in my world, I deal with really high-level anxiety. Today, I'm about to lose a $10 million deal. To anxiety, I'm about to lose my husband. So I deal with those anxieties. I'm able to hold them really, really well. That is my job. However, in 2020, I found myself absolutely incredibly peaceful and quite happy. It's kind of hard to say that right now. And yet I witnessed the people really truly falling apart. And there was a pattern across the board, regardless of how much money people had, what they did, and what their role was in this world. So I did the next best thing that I could do. I packed up my kids after the riot started. We were in South Minneapolis, and I got very triggered. So I grew up in Bosnia during the war. So when I saw all of those SWAT officers and tank-like vehicles in my neighborhood, you can imagine that my 8-year-old self went right back to that scenario. I have goosebumps actually just speaking about it right now. So it's a I had to breathe very deeply because this is very reminiscent of what I grew up every single day for 5 years. It was a state of fear. Packed up my kids and went to Boundary Waters for 3 months. We were tenting, we caught our own fish, we were doing all the things, and it was probably the happiest 3 months of my entire life. And my boys still talk about it. They were 5 and 6 at the time, and my husband and we would just think about how little do we need to be happy, and how all of the fears and all of the things completely went away just by being immersed in nature and letting go of the world. But while I was in the Boundary Waters, I'm a researcher by trade, in the very well versed at the Humphrey, that everything you look at the data, you want to understand what's going on. I really wanted to understand what was going on at a much deeper level. So I started doing an incredible amount of research by talking to people and also looking at the data that was coming from the rest of the world. And it took me 3 years to really understand what was happening. And I was very fortunate those 3 years to talk to and become friends with the governor, Mark Dayton, the billionaire Bram Akradi, incredible writers and leaders in the Twin Cities, because I really wanted to understand people who are at the highest level of success and influence. What were they seeing? What were they hearing? What is the way forward? Because if you don't have a way forward and we're just spinning with what is, then we have a real problem because we're threading. And for me, America is always about the way forward. How do we do things better? How can we move forward? How can we come together and build a better world for ourselves and our children? And when I'm going to now very quickly summarize the research that I have found in those 3 years. A lot of the book is seen through the lens of quantum physics. In my research, and this is a personal thing, I started studying with a healer, and he would make references to quantum physics. Now, I consider myself to be highly educated, very smart, but quantum physics is a whole different level of smart. And I read over 300 books, and I remember reading over 200 books in a year, and I still couldn't get it. I didn't get it, but I was reading very advanced books. However, there's an incredible amount of research coming up in the field of quantum physics that is absolutely revolutionizing and explaining that who we are in this world and how the world works. And that really has to do with the anxiety that we're feeling as a nation. So in 2020, the levels of depression and anxiety across the world went up by 13%. That's the highest spike in the last 100 years. So this is due to a lot of different things. It's a confluence of a lot of different things. But I really do believe that we have been on this road for a very long time. And this was just something that really amplified a lot of those things. And we have been driving 300 miles an hour, and no one wanted to stop, because if we pushed on the brakes, we would have to do something about it, and we weren't ready. And COVID did that for a lot of us, and I think that there's going to be always a world before COVID and after COVID. So my main concern is with the people that I work with, that I was working for a very long time, who are the kind of people who create policy in this world, might become presidents one day. We're having a really hard time becoming coherent and very present in this world. They were losing their coherence, they were losing their inner peace, and they said, I just don't know what's wrong with me. So I wrote this book as a testament that it's not just you or me, it's all of us. We're all feeling it at some point or another. And there's this collective anxiousness that I think is really, really, really frightening. The number one cause of death for children ages 5 to 11 is suicide today in the world. That is an incredibly sad statistic, and the numbers are only going up. So I really want to look at this. I'm not a psychologist, and I am not a pediatric physician. However, I'm really, really, really interested in this is our future. What are we doing wrong? What's happening? What I found in my research is that that adults are not okay. We're not okay. We're transferring the things that we haven't processed to the children, and we're contributing to the chaos of the world, and that's very difficult to hear. So the Healer and Heals, the title of the book is came from my healer, a spiritual teacher who taught me about quantum physics, and I'm a business owner and a researcher, and I would come to him and say, okay, help me again, I still don't got it. And he would laugh at me and say, you have it, you're a healer. And I would laugh, well, I wear high heels and fancy dresses, I'm not a healer. And he said, you're a healer in heels. And it stuck, and it really is a metaphor for our own ability to create change, our own ability to be the ones that we have been waiting for. So now I am eagerly awaiting the elections that are coming up in our country, because I know that there's going to be an uproar, and there's going to be an incredible increase of chaos and anxiety in our country. And the division that has been sown is nothing like what I have seen before. And I think it carries warning signs, and I'm going to tell you why. So I'm going to read from, just really briefly, something from my book. And this is from a chapter where I talked to former Governor Mark Dayton, and I did not talk to him about politics. I wanted to know about how do you find inner peace and how do you talk to others when there's such incredible division in the world. And he said, I've never seen anything like it. I've known people coming up against me, but this is a whole new different territory. So this is from my book, and the chapter name is The Quantum Mechanics of Love. I grew up watching people do inconceivable things to one another, inflict violence, torture, rape in the name of faith. I vowed to be different, more accepting, more loving, and more understanding. I made my way to the United States, a bastion of freedom, a place where it didn't matter where you came from, what your political or religious background was. A place for me, I thought. For many years it was. However, the past few years have given us reasons to doubt each other and ourselves. We fixate on our differences, doubling down on our beliefs. Emotions are high. People are pulling apart. Division is being systematically sown. The longer it goes on, the more it becomes the norm. We often partake in foolish conflicts, picking sides and getting sucked into the rush of a story that races forward, a story we're not even sure it's true. This is not a disquisition on politics or morality or an effort to claim territory, stake out right or wrong. I believe that work for the next Messiah. However, I do believe that by taking a clear look at ourselves and our participation in the chaos of the present world, we can take steps to change the nature of the influence we have, stop inflicting and incurring injuries and harm, and instead direct our energy toward the healing we, all of us, desperately need. So when I was 9, I ended up in a refugee camp. And my father was taken to a concentration camp where he was tortured for 18 months. And this was not a long time ago. Paul remembers, we've talked about that. I don't know if you remember. Now we have Ukraine, and now we have Israel and Palestine. So these are the kind of things that are going to continue to happen. But it seems to be an increased incidence of hatred, of polarization in the rest of the world, not in the Rotary rooms across the world, of course, because we know what we stand for with the mission and the kind of people that come here. But if we look elsewhere, there is a pollution of the values that really truly matter. And why do I say this? People tell me, well, yes, and something like that would happen to you and your father would never happen in the United States. This is how it started. This is precisely how it started. It started by first telling me, you are Muslim. I grew up Muslim. And then, I didn't know I was Muslim until I was told I was Muslim. And then all of a sudden there were separate rooms for me. And then all of a sudden I wasn't able to discuss with my friends our religion, right? Republicans and Democrats. I don't want to get into politics because I'm really, I'm so neutral, I'm so loving of people that I genuinely do not care. But what is really fascinating is that there are seeds of what I saw back in Bosnia of how the war started happening right now. So where does quantum physics comes in? It's like, okay, why are you talking about quantum physics and healing and politics, and why does it matter? Quantum physics says, when we observe something and give it energy, it becomes more of our reality. Media today, and I shouldn't bash it too much because I'm on TV every week, so I'm very grateful for the message of positivity that I got to share. We really love melodrama and as a society, and we're attracted to it. So if you give more energy to it, that something grows and becomes more of it. And what we have forgotten, there's a beautiful, I left it at the table, I believe, yes, my phone. The most incredible gadget that was created that I think is going to be such a detriment to so many of us, because here's another pattern of the people that I'm working with across the board. Billionaires and stay-at-home moms are spending exactly the same amounts of time on that thing, and they're becoming imprisoned by it. And what are we watching? Exactly what algorithm wants us to. So we're becoming myopic in the things that we're listening to. And if we watch at something, and that's the biofeedback, we're getting more of it, we're becoming an active contributor, not a passive contributor. There is no such a thing in the world that we're creating. So every time I'm in a room, I recently had a neighbor who walked into my house and he hired some of my kids to do some shoveling, and my kids are quite the entrepreneurs. We were talking about something, and someone mentioned politics, and he immediately got so mad. You're not ever going to, vote for that person. And he went into to use some of the words that I don't think I would ever use in my vocabulary in my entire life. But he was so full of hate and anger. And this is a highly educated physician, an incredible member of our community, and from everything that I know, a very good person. But this is the danger that we run into. We all call ourselves good people, but we have become so judgmental toward others if we're not in agreement with what it is that they believe, that we believe. So what is the solution then? Because if you present the problem, what is the solution? The solution is to really come back to us. The solution says that I am the microcosm of the macrocosm and vice versa. Quantum physics is really bizarre in a way that says nothing out there is real. You're seeing the manifestation of me, but I'm actually not here. If you were to take away all of the space between my atoms and the cells, I would be just a few specks of dust. So it's an interesting concept of this, the matter and what is not matter and how we influence it. And we influence what is in the world with our thoughts, with directed intention. So the research took me to labs where folks are studying the thoughts and our ability to change physical matter with our thoughts. So it's no longer this incredible esoteric thing, or it's just, Jasna, you're just a little woo-woo. Now it's an actual science, and it gives us power. And I'm going to leave you with this, that the solution becomes in every single one of our lives, in the households, in the things that we do, in the things that we say, which is why I love Rotary so much. It's an integrity with what I think and speak and say, but how do I cohere my senses to become a light in this world? we didn't come here just to consume and move through the world and get to the next stage. We came here literally to be the light and to guide others toward the light. And that starts with us. So my book is the reminder of the power that we hold, that you are the macrocosm of this world in this tiny body, and remembers that every single one of us single-handedly has the power to change the world. So that's it. Thank you so very much.